I came home with 19 plants last week. I planned on only buying the pansies. It's still too cold for the rest. There's a phrase I hear from gardeners, and if you've ever said it, you already know exactly what I mean. All the plants. I want all the plants. I bought all the plants. I may have come here for one hosta and I'm leaving with all the plants. It's funny when we say it, and we mean it to be funny, but I've started to wonder if there's something underneath it. Something we're not quite naming when we chuckle. Today, I want to explore this, not to fix it, not to make a case for restraint or to calculate garden math or how many hostas actually fit in a shade bed. I'd like to look a little closer at what's really happening in that moment, in the nursery, in May, when something in us just reaches. I've been gardening for more than 30 years, and in that time, I have learned far more about how the world works than I have about growing plants. You know, I don't think all the plants is really about the plants. So it's May. May is not a calm month for gardeners. It arrives with this particular kind of energy and excitement. The beds are finally workable. Everything is waking up, and the garden centers are at peak temptation. The tables are full, the color is everywhere, and you walked in for one thing. But then something else happens. You see a hosta you've never seen before. A brightly colored perennial catches your eye. A shrub is in full glorious bloom. And without fully deciding anything, your hand is already reaching. And by the time you're at the checkout, the cart has a logic to it that feels completely sensible to you, even if it would not make sense to anyone else. All the plants. Here's what I've noticed though. That moment, the reaching, the choosing, the cart that somehow fills itself, it doesn't feel like a lapse in judgment. It feels like a response. Something in you responds to something in the plant. And I don't think that response is irrational. I think it's actually quite specific. Because here's the thing about a plant at a nursery. It's alive. It is, in that moment, entirely dependent. It needs water. It needs soil. It needs someone to put it somewhere and give it a chance. And there you are, standing right in front of it. I don't know if you feel what I feel in that moment, but there's something that shifts when I'm standing in front of a living thing that needs care. It's like a role has just opened up and I happen to be exactly the right size for it. I didn't fully understand why until this past year. Now I want to be honest here because I've thought about this a lot, possibly more than is healthy for someone with limited space. Did you know I moved to find more garden space? Okay, there were other reasons too, but the garden space sealed the deal. I've brought home plants I had absolutely no business bringing home. Plants with care requirements I did not have the sun for. Plants I put in containers because there was nowhere left in the ground. Plants that frankly did not survive my confidence in them. It's not something I've learned from or grown out of, and it's not just past me who does this. Right now, as I'm recording this, we're planting shrubs in the nursery. Hydrangeas, specimen shrubs, things that are new and special and honestly so hard to resist when you're surrounded by them every day. My husband, bless him, he does all the planting. He planted about a quarter of them before he tracked me down. Where are we going to put all of these? I didn't have a good answer. And when we're ordering for spring in October, space is genuinely one of the last things on our minds. We'll figure it out. We always do. I used to think I just loved plants too much. I get carried away. I have a problem. But last year I discovered something entirely unexpected. I remember clearly. It was a time when life felt genuinely uncertain. I was in the midst of active treatment for breast cancer. I didn't need to go into details. You've had years where something big is happening and you're along for the ride, doing your part but not in control. Most of us have experiences like these. In the middle of this uproar in my life, I went to the garden center and I came home with more plants than I had ever bought before, except for nursery stock. I bought 4 flats of annuals. I usually only buy 3, but I had plans. This spring, when the snow melted, the shredded plastic trays reappeared. 2 of the 4 flats never got planted. They languished in their cells, they were covered by autumn leaves and mowed over, plastic and all, in the final mow of the season. They were already frozen by then, but the melting snow this year revealed what I hadn't managed to take care of, despite very good intentions. And I stood there looking at them thinking, why do I do this? Why do I buy all the plants, even when I know better? Seeing those shredded plastic trays and knowing I didn't take care of those plants, I realized something. When I put plants in the ground, when I tuck in the roots and water them in, I feel needed. Not just useful, not just productive, but needed. These plants needed me. They were in my yard, in my care, and whether they thrived was going to depend on what I did next. That was huge for me during a season in my life when so many things were out of my control. A time when I needed so much from others. After I rang the bell, maybe I didn't need those annual seedlings to need me quite so much anymore. I've watched it happen in the nursery too. One customer came in for 3 spirea, double play dolly, beautiful with deep red new growth, giving way to chartreuse leaves and blooms that are vibrant pink. That's what she wanted. That's what she came for. And that's what she bought. But on her way through, she paused by the rock-steady chase tree, a vitex just down the bench alphabetically. She debated it, and her restraint won. Restraint doesn't usually win. She left without it. But 2 weeks later, she came back for one chase tree. She made the trip. Whether she decided where to put it before she bought it, I don't know. With plant people, we can never be sure. What if I want all the plants isn't really about the plants at all? Maybe it's about wanting to be the one who shows up for something, the one whose presence makes a difference, the one who is needed. We do this with people too. You know we do. We stay longer than we planned. We take on more than we should. We say yes when asked to volunteer for the PTA, when we should have said not right now. We support the person who needs more than we have to give, and we tell ourselves we just care too much. But sometimes I think what's really happening is more subtle. We stepped into a role that felt like it fit. We felt for a moment genuinely needed. And that feeling, that particular feeling, is one that many of us are quietly hungry for. Maybe not all of us. But the garden just lets us notice it, because the garden doesn't complicate it. The hosta doesn't have expectations. It just grows or it doesn't, and you either showed up for it or you didn't. It's honest that way. So the next time you're at the nursery in May or any other month, and you feel that pull toward the plant you didn't plan on, the one that somehow ends up in your cart before you've made a decision, I'm not going to tell you to put it back. I'm going to suggest you get a little curious about what's happening inside of you in that moment. Not to stop yourself, just to notice. Because sometimes I want all the plants is your truest self saying, I want to matter. I want to show up for something. I want to be the one who stays. And that is a beautiful thing to want. If the garden is where you contemplate what life reveals, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Until the next chapter, in the Hosta Garden.